This time on My Dream Farm, I'm helping a young couple determined to start a new farming life in the beautiful Usk Valley in South Wales.
The prospect of seeing our own cattle on the land is the beginning of the realisation of the dream.
The River Usk runs from the Brecon Beacons down to the sea at Newport, flanked in the Vale of Usk in Monmouthshire by rich agricultural land. This is a story of a family with many struggles to overcome. That's not so unusual in agriculture, but they've got hold of a piece of land and they don't really know what to do with it, but they need to, because they've got money problems. They're also bringing up a young family. But there's another aspect which is perhaps more common than we acknowledge, but not really often talked about, and that is the struggle with mental ill health. Nick and Talitha Bailey-Brain live near the pretty town of Usk, where their 2-year-old daughter Emily was born.
Come on, four-wheel drive. There she's off, look. I grew up surrounded by fields with cows, and we had chickens, and I would just like my children to grow up in the same sort of environment.
Talitha, known by everybody as T, grew up on a smallholding in Zimbabwe.
My parents grew quite a lot of tropical plants, things like mulberries, guavas, mangoes, and I've always had a yearning for that ever since I came here.
T currently works 3 nights a week as a nurse, whilst Nick has his own building and demolition business since being medically discharged from the RAF after a tour of duty in Kosovo.
It was horrific, absolutely horrific time. I put my parents through hell.
Nick has been diagnosed with bipolar disorder, also known as manic depression, and experiences both bouts of black despair and episodes of manic, reckless activity.
You lose touch with reality to such a degree. Mind racing all the time, totally manic, absolutely manic.
Nick and T bought Coomback Farm 3 years ago, which comprises of 2 fields a couple of miles down the road from their cottage, hoping that the connection to the land would be therapeutic for Nick. But they have absolutely no farming experience.
I think our knowledge is, it's quite basic. It's really from what we've watched on TV and the few books that we've read.
Yeah.
But they do have lots of ideas for the farm, mostly based around Nick's plan to build a large barn to store his many vehicles. However, buying the land has stretched their finances to breaking point. This is where I come in, because they urgently need to make some income and hope that I can help them do this from their land. It's the 1st of June, and summer has come to the valley when I make my first visit to see Nick and T. Knowing of Nick's daily struggle with bipolar disorder, I fervently hope that this lovely landscape will nourish rather than bury their dreams.
Hello. Oh, dog in. Your fields are these, are they?
Yes, yeah, this one in front of us and the one further back.
The Bailey-Brains live in a cottage down the road, and opposite is a plot where Nick currently stores his vehicles. Coomback Farm is a couple of miles away. It comprises 17 acres divided into 2 fields bounded by tall hedges, with an existing but rather derelict barn. The land slopes up from the entrance, which is where Nick plans to build a new barn. But at the moment, the site of this barn is occupied only by a huge pile of rubble.
Was this rubble here when you came?
No. It's come from a house that got knocked down. And it was just
Nick salvaged this and a mass of used timber to recycle for his barn.
This is roughly where the barn is going, and we want to track down the one side so I can have vehicles coming in and going out.
And what vehicles are we talking about?
Mainly my little lorry. I've got a 17-ton lorry and my JCB.
Why don't you walk me around and tell me all your plans? because I'm not a barn person.
Yeah.
I'm a land person.
Yes,
an
yeah.
animal person.
Should we get the other shock out the way?
What's that?
The other pile.
Yeah.
This all came from the same building.
Nick seems obsessed with building the barn, but there is a rather chaotic feel to the place. And this includes some of his ideas for the land.
This is a lovely field, isn't it? It's got a beautiful sweep to it.
Well, we've looked at that slope, and someone mentioned to us the other day about this land surfing, so I think that would be fantastic because you could...
land surfing?
I'm not quite sure, but it sounds fun.
I think it's time to introduce a touch of agricultural reality here.
What's your experience? Have you ever kept animals?
No.
My parents had a small holding in Zimbabwe.
Right.
And they had a few chickens. I can remember feeding them, and that's about it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the reason why I bought the land, to have my own cows, my own sheep, my own pigs.
I can empathise with that all right. And looking at the quality of their pasture, I see great potential for cattle here. And the perfect ones for a beginner like Nick would be a British breed that I keep on my own farm, the Dexter. Dexters are the smallest breed of British cattle and come in two types, short and long-legged. They're very hardy and thrive on relatively poor grazing and are happy to stay outdoors all year round. And because of their small, light frame, do little damage on soft ground. Although they're not primarily dairy cattle, a Dexter cow will yield at least 9 litres of milk a day, thus making her an ideal house cow for the smallholder. But Dexters are usually reared as beef cattle, producing meat which is delicious and highly sought after. Next, we go to look at the upper field.
So, but it's a very, very nice spot.
Oh,
isn't
thank
it?
you.
You can make hay up here, you know.
Well, that was my plan at the moment. Now, one of my concerns is these buttercups.
And why does
Do
that
we need
worry?
to get rid of them?
No, no, of course you don't. The single best thing you can do in immediate term is let the grass grow long.
Hay is made from grass that is cut and dried in the sun before being gathered and stored, and is an ideal way of preserving the surplus summer grazing.
The great thing you've got here is cash. That's money. That's cash. That's the fuel.
Yeah.
That's the product. It's costing you nothing.
Yeah. Quite a lot. Yeah.
Finally, I'm taken to a wild, overgrown hollow.
I was always aware that I'm going to have to come in here with my digger and dig this out. But, yeah.
Do you know what you could do in here?
Mm-hmm.
If you wanted to clear it, put pigs in here.
Yeah.
It's a thought. Pigs would love it, and they would clear it.
That's great.
Rearing his own livestock might be Nick's dream, but there's also enough land here to accommodate T's desire to grow fruit.
Right.
Trees and fruit are something that would
Yeah.
really interest you, aren't they?
I do, yes. I think my bit is the gardening bit. And,
But I think that's important. I think that could be a big bit.
Yeah, I think I'm mad on the animals and T's mad on the growing. So between the two of us,
we can sort
we
of
make a good
specialise,
team.
can't we?
Yeah.
This is such a beautiful spot. And of course you can see how that Nick and T immediately wanted to base their dreams and build them on this land. But they do need to start to make it work. And Nick, with his ideas and his dreams, he's got such sort of attractive qualities that needs to be channeled into the land.
The Bailey-Brain family have owned 17 acres of pasture near Usk in South Wales for 3 years. But their only current plan for it is to build a huge barn. They have massive debts and want my help to get their dream farm up and running. But I want to be certain that Nick, who suffers from bipolar disorder, hasn't taken on too much.
Well, there you are. You've got a lifelong illness. So what do? You decide to take on this enormous challenge. What happens if you have another attack? How does that fit in with running a complicated small holding?
That's a really difficult question. It's going to break the dream.
Right.
It is going to seriously compromise it.
I think the key thing is that whatever plans we make, whatever plans you execute, your health has to be the key importance, because otherwise it's not going to happen, is it?
Emily?
Given Nick's health, T is going to have a pivotal role in making this dream a reality. But that will just add another weight to what is already a heavy load.
with Nick's illness, I mean, he's had tough times. The
Yes.
chances are he could also, there are tough times to come. How will you cope with that?
I'm the calming influence, I think. So I think, I'd be able to, work through the winters and help Nick through the tough times.
You supply the steadiness.
That's it, yes.
It's time to lay out a simple plan to them, but not one that will stretch them too far. And although I know that Nick is obsessed with putting up his barn, this feels to me like a diversion. And anyway, they can't afford it. My advice to you, before you can start work on this land, is you make the decision. I think you shouldn't build your barn.
Thing is, Molly, I've got to cut in on you with this. Part of the dream is having a big barn.
I've got that.
Yeah.
In the short term, you do not need a big barn.
If they put the barn on hold, I've got 2 easy proposals for making money from their biggest asset, which is the 17 acres of grass.
You make hay in this field here.
Mm-hmm.
Worry about where you're going to store it later.
Yeah.
I would get half a dozen to 10 cattle. We'll see if we can find some that you want. If they're Dexters or if they're Welsh Blacks or if they're whatever you're interested in, we can do that.
Yeah.
Then you're farming.
I also think a few pigs would be a good option for them. They're easy to look after and would do an excellent job of clearing the overgrown scrub. T's desire to grow some fruit trees is, I think, an idea to encourage and could be a useful source of future income, especially if she can process the fruit in some way. Start to make this pay and then the dream can become reality.
Yeah.
As it is, it's pie in the sky, it's not going to work.
A lot to think about, some very important decisions to make.
Yeah, possibly we might not have been,
Too realistic,
taking
yeah.
the correct route. And I think for the time being, we've decided to hold the barn off.
But the prospect of seeing our own cattle on the land is the beginning of the realisation of the dream.
Whilst Nick and T are feeling enthusiastic and positive, this is a good time to send them both off to get instruction and a little experience in the different areas that they're interested in pursuing on their own land. Nick is going on a crash course to learn the basics of cattle farming, from handling skills to worming and tagging. His mentor for the day, Polly Conroy, took over her father's herd 3 years ago on the 200-acre family farm at Presswood in Buckinghamshire. Today she runs a very successful internet meat business and sells to some of the best restaurants in London.
But this is just a small part of your herd, is it?
It is,
Polly?
yes. Predominantly longhorn. You can see the purebred longhorns.
Polly has a herd of 80 conventionally sized cattle, but it's the much smaller Dexters that Nick will help her with today.
So these are your little fellas then?
This is my first herd. Dexters are very good for first timers. They're really low maintenance. They're very docile and sweet.
Whilst Nick is dealing with Dexters, T has gone off to Pembrokeshire to meet Miranda James, who started her successful preserves business 10 years ago from her cottage kitchen.
What a lovely spot you have here, Miranda. It's absolutely beautiful.
It is, and the view is...
Although T's planned fruit trees will take several years to yield any usable produce, Miranda should inspire and show her how she can still be making her own fruit products before then, and that will generate vital income.
As you can see, marmalades, chutneys and the jams.
Yeah.
I should think it's about sort of 45, 50,000 jars a year I'm making. Over the years it's just grown, and now I suppose I supply about 80 different outlets.
On Polly's farm, Nick is getting his first taste of routine cattle work with the Dexters. This experience will give him a brief taste of cattle husbandry, and hopefully the confidence to run a small herd of Dexters of his own.
This is a crush, really, Nick, for horned animals. I'll just push her through. Nice and gently.
Just pull this?
Yep, just keep it on her head, that's it.
Yeah.
And then wait till it clicks. That's it, she's in.
Right.
You have to have...
Although called a crush, this essential piece of kit is only used to hold and restrain the animal when necessary, and does them no harm.
You can see that she's happy.
The first job, worming, is done 2 or 3 times a year on a non-organic farm like Polly's.
We're treating for things like lungworm,
Right.
ringworm,
Yeah.
Just start from in between the shoulder blades.
Right there.
That's perfect, Nick. Well done.
Yeah.
There you go. You wound your first Dexter.
Won my first Dexter. Super.
Meanwhile, in Miranda's kitchen, T is learning how to make ginger and mango chutney.
Yeah, oh, I absolutely love mangoes. My parents had a mango tree in Zimbabwe.
Oh, did they?
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely
brilliant.
love them.
Processing any fruit into a preserve will add value, even allowing for all the overheads. This is especially the case if you've grown the fruit yourself or foraged it from friends' gardens or from hedgerows. A couple of pounds of green tomatoes from the garden are almost impossible to give away. But make green tomato chutney with them and you can sell it for £3 to £4 a pound.
Of course, prepping is time-consuming.
Do you sometimes eat it when you're cooking it?
If they're
It smells lovely.
Yeah, if they're overripe, yes, I do tend to.
To make Miranda's mango and ginger chutney at home, you simply chop up fresh mangoes, and Miranda leaves the skins on, and place them in a large, heavy saucepan, adding sultanas, sugar, vinegar, salt, dried chilies, garlic and ginger, which Miranda buys ready prepared.
And the juices start coming out of the mango, then you've got to...
Bring the mixture to the boil and then simmer for 20 minutes. You're then ready to bottle it, making sure your jars have been sterilised, which you can do on your hottest dishwasher setting, and that any air holes left after pouring in the mixture are prodded away.
Is enough?
It is, yeah. So far.
I think get some recipes, play around with what you want. You can go foraging for your fruit because it's free. You can always do what I do, have an honesty jar on a table outside, or even go to car boot sales. Just start off small and build up.
It's been a real eye-opener and inspiration for me. I think we might start off, just by selling a few jars of preserves or jam and maybe advertising, locally, and then hopefully by next year, once we become established, maybe start doing things on a larger scale.
Good girl.
Back at Polly's farm, Nick is paying careful attention to the next lesson, tagging.
In this country, we have to have 2 tags, so one in each ear.
What do the numbers mean?
That's my holding number, and you'll have one.
Yeah, right.
And then that's the unique identifier for the animal.
Right.
In the cattle ear, in the cow's ear, there's 2 veins that go up like that, and you can get in between them. So if you aim for the centre of the ear, you can't really go wrong.
This might look brutal, but actually the animal only feels a brief nip, and then they're away.
Put it down. That's it. Now pull it to see it's in properly. Yeah, well done.
Thank God for that. Sorry, mate. Hey,
well done.
Like a well-oiled machine.
There you go.
So, how does Nick feel now, having spent his first day with Dexters?
Do you think we've put you off Dexters, or do you think you'll still get them?
No, I can't wait now. Can't wait.
They're a great breed to have.
Well, would it?
But although Nick says he can't wait, it seems he can, because he declines Polly's offer to buy some of these animals at a very good price, and seems strangely unready to commit. However, he is following my advice to consider getting some pigs to clear their scrub, and is heading off with T to mid-Wales to visit a specialist pig breeder.
Gosh, big place you've got here, Sue.
Sue Jones took on the 40-acre Brynarth farm 8 years ago, and with her son Chris, began rearing pedigree pigs.
Oh, look at these. Look at these.
Sue takes them to see her large blacks, and Nick immediately falls under their spell.
Oh, wow, look at those. We loved the look of her pigs. We certainly like the products that you get from pigs, ham, sausages. It's quite a versatile animal.
Nick is clearly enthusiastic about Sue's pigs, and hopefully this visit will give him the confidence to try and keep a few pigs himself, even if he's not up to the cattle yet. It's the middle of July, and I'm returning to Usk to see Nick and T. The last time I was here, I didn't get any sense that they had a plan of action for their farm. So I made some simple suggestions. And this time, I'd like to see some pigs and even cattle on the land. And maybe they've made their hay by now too.
No sign of animals, no sign of activity, and no sign of Nick.
Hello, Monty. Nice to see you.
And you?
Nick was hoping to meet you, but he's got a surprise for you.
Has he?
Yes.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. I'll give Nick his due. He doesn't do his surprises by half.
Hiya, Monty. You look a bit daunted.
Well, I'm surprised. What have you got here?
I'd hoped that Nick was off buying livestock, but it turns out he was scouting around for yet more vehicles to add to his collection. And this rackety mobile home is the latest to swell their ranks.
And the lady who owned it, my mum teaches her daughter, and she said, oh, Mrs. Brain's son. She said, oh, she said, wonderful. She said, you can have it.
So they gave it to
So they gave it to us, and we're chuffed to bits.
Well, you can't argue with the logic of having shelter for humans on this land, especially as it was free. But I'd rather he brought back some animals. Given Nick's unpredictable behaviour, it's really important that T doesn't get sidetracked from her plans to make jams and chutneys.
Come on, let's have a look.
And while growing fruit trees will take time, there's already some produce here on their land.
Wherever you've got a hedgerow,
Yes.
particularly if it's a bit overgrown, you're bound to have brambles, which are blackberries.
Yeah.
And the season is sort of September. Varies a little bit. See, here we are. I've got blackberries here, I've got blackberries in the hedge here. At the moment, they've got these little pinky purple flowers, sort of lilac flowers, which of course will become the fruit.
Do you know, I never realised with blackberries. Yeah, I went and bought blackberry.
Did you?
Bushes, I did.
It's not just farmland that can be foraged for food. Parks and roadsides and wasteland can all yield a wonderful free harvest. In June, elderflowers can be made into elderflower champagne, and nettles make an excellent soup, particularly rich in iron. Early autumn is the best time for berries, particularly blackberries, which make delicious jams and pies. There are also sloe berries from blackthorn, which when steeped in gin and sugar make the best Christmas liqueur. Rowan berries from the mountain ash tree can be boiled and made into a lovely jelly, and rose hips make a fruity and nutritious tea or syrup. Despite T's steady enthusiasm, it is disappointing that there are no cattle, no pigs, or any sign of haymaking yet. Nothing seems to have happened. But when we get back to the cottage, Nick has another surprise.
Oh, wow, look at those.
Sue had arrived with 4 large black wieners, and if there's one thing guaranteed to raise your spirits, it's a pig.
Go on then, down you go.
Nick wants to keep the pigs on this plot opposite his cottage, but I think the sooner they get up to the farm and start clearing that scrubby area, the better.
Come on, piggies! Come on, piggies!
Just come here to be alone for a minute or two to get a bit of calm, because when you're with Nick, the energy levels, not to say the chaos levels, are very high. And it's very demanding, although today we've got these pigs, which is great, but it's interesting that's all happened on the day he knew I was coming to visit him. And all the things we talked about achieving up till now have sort of fallen by the wayside. But if I could just steer him into beginning something, seeing it through, it would help him ground himself. And this is the place that he must ground himself to.
I'm in the Usk Valley in South Wales, trying to assist Nick and Talitha Bailey-Brain to get their dream farm up and running. T's ambition is to grow and harvest fruit from this land, whilst Nick says that he wants to get animals onto it. But so far, not much has happened. And due to his bipolar disorder, Nick struggles to stay focused on anything for long. It's therefore doubly important that T doesn't lose sight of her role. So I've arranged a chance for her to take it further.
So I'm going to set you both a challenge, and I think you could do. The first T is for you. I have booked a stall at Abergavenny Food Festival.
Have you? Really?
So it's an opportunity for you to show your chutneys.
Yes.
Now, this is September the 19th, so
Yeah.
it's quite a long way away. It's 2 months away.
Yeah.
All you have to do is make enough chutney to display and to sell.
Great advertising campaign.
Yeah.
Monty
Yeah.
Don survived this chutney.
Not yet, I haven't.
Funny enough, I was looking on the internet and I've always wanted to go to the food festival. And we were going this year as spectators.
You will be going.
But it's
Matey.
brilliant.
Yeah.
Going as a stall.
It's important that Nick doesn't feel too pressurised, so I'm just asking him to follow through with the tasks that I previously set him.
With the best will in the world, Nick, things are slightly chaotic, inevitably.
Yeah, I'm pretty determined not to get much more chaotic.
You've got the pigs. Stick to what we said. Get them in here in a couple of weeks. Stage 2, make your hay. You don't have to do that yourself.
No.
In fact, my advice would be to get a contractor.
Yeah, I think that's easier at the moment.
So find one, ring around. I would also like to see you buy some Dexter cattle and put them on the land. You're not trying to make a fortune, just get the land working.
Yeah.
And I'll be there at Abergavenny Food Festival.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Tasting the chutney.
I'll be there, yeah. No, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, this basically...
I'm really happy about the challenge that Monty has set me, and I'm really looking forward to going to the Abergavenny Food Festival.
Hopefully, I mean, if I have a good month or so now, then I think there'll be a lot more to show Monty this next time when he comes up.
2 months have gone by, and it's harvest time in the fields of the Usk Valley. Nick has successfully followed through on one of my suggestions and had his own first harvest, making nearly 50 large round bales of hay.
We just kept 8 on there, which we could tarp up nice and tidy, keep them dry. And there's 10 of them in the little barn now. So we just pushed them in there, stuffed them up with a little JCB.
The contractors that Nick employed to harvest the hay took some of the bales for payment, but he's still left with plenty, and he can sell them for £20 to £30 a bale.
You know, it's quite a nice thing to do, and I can see it's a nice little earner.
The haymaking has spurred Nick into action, and he's ready to tackle the next of my suggestions.
Priorities now is just to get some animals on here. We've sort of reached a decision now that we're going to hopefully go ahead with some cows from Polly, who we visited earlier on in the...
Meanwhile, T's priority is to get on with making her chutney for the food festival. She's fully aware that this is her opportunity to show that she could provide an important source of income from the land. But there has been a major setback.
Home sweet home.
In a manic outburst of activity, Nick has demolished their old kitchen to make way for an extension. But there's absolutely no sign of any rebuilding work.
Emily put her head out the door. She said, "Oh dear, Daddy, what are you doing now?" Which is kind of pretty much what her mother said.
I don't know if you've seen our kitchen is a bit of a mess at the moment.
Luckily, T's been able to transfer her cooking operations to the comfort and hygiene of her mother-in-law's kitchen.
And just give it a bit of a stir.
But having no kitchen is not the only thing T is contending with. The couple have just discovered that she's pregnant. Morning sickness and chutney don't go well together.
I'm a bit hormonal, so you'll have to excuse me. I tend to laugh a lot or cry a lot. So if I start crying while we're making jam, don't be surprised. Very nice.
But with help from her mother-in-law, she's made enough jam and chutney to fill her stall.
This is the last batch for the show, and I think we're definitely ready now. Just got to pop the labels on and we're ready to go.
T has even developed her new Zimbabwe-inspired brand, Rudo Preserves. Rudo meaning love in her mother tongue.
The actual design, it came from thinking about when, my grandmother used to make chutney when I was a young child. And the colours are all part of the, the Zimbabwean flag, make it look a bit brighter and appealing.
Hopefully this exotic mixture of Welsh and Zimbabwean fare is well received at the Abergavenny Food Festival. It's the day before the festival, and Nick is finally getting round to moving the pigs away from the plot opposite the cottage and up onto their fields. But despite his vast number of assorted vehicles, he's had to borrow an animal trailer from Sue, the original breeder of the pigs.
What do you think? Do you want to put a hurdle in there, or...?
Hello, girls.
Come on, piggies! All right, piggies.
Preparation.
All right. Wow, that went easily.
I'd suggested that he use his pigs to clear a patch of overgrown scrub, but Nick has now decided he wants to keep them on an area of good quality pasture. Luckily, Sue, with all her experience, is on hand to help him set up the electric fencing to create a pen.
Right. Get me mower going, I think.
Nick, of course, has all the mechanical kit needed for the next stage, cutting the grass to prevent it shorting the electric current.
Come on, piggies. Din-dins, piggies. Come on, piggies. There's good piggies.
As the pigs settle into their new home a couple of miles from the cottage, Nick now has fresh anxieties.
Now, it's just been a bit nerve-wracking not being able to see them. They're a long way from home at the moment.
It's September the 19th and the opening day of the Abergavenny Food Festival. This has become an important event in the British farming calendar, as thousands of food lovers descend on this ancient Monmouthshire market town.
All food festivals are linked to particular places. The connection between the land and the food that we eat is made direct. And here at Abergavenny, there are a lot of fabulous dairy products, ciders, really good meat, but every kind of food that you could possibly imagine. So to ask T to show her chutney here is a big, big thing. The standards here are very high, and if she succeeds, it means unequivocally that she's very good. If it doesn't work out, well, at least she will learn a lot, but I do hope it does work.
As Nick and T arrive to set up the stall, they're greeted by Miranda, who's come to advise and help drum up business.
Oh, I like the labels.
They're nice, aren't they? Nice and bright.
Well, yeah.
Very eye-catching. You can tell I work in a hospital, can't you? Gotta clean everything.
T is amazingly upbeat, given that she's suffering from bad morning sickness, and it's going to be quite a struggle for her to make it through the day.
Hello, T.
Hello, Monty.
Hello.
How are you? Nice to see you.
How are you?
I'm all right, thank you.
This looks fantastic.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah.
To me, this looks like an incredibly confident setup.
It does.
And when I think of you in that field in June,
Yeah.
sort of tentatively,
Not sure.
you know,
Yeah.
it's good,
Yeah.
it's great.
Come a long way. I'm hoping that it'll all be gone.
But I want to give it the most important test of all, to see how it tastes.
Plum jam, absolutely of the season.
Garden plums from Merrill, my mother-in-law's
Really?
garden, yeah.
Oh, they're lovely.
Lovely,
They're
yeah.
really good.
Peach
For
and
pudding, I'm
banana.
going to have peach and banana
That's
chutney.
a very popular one. It's got a bit of a tropical flair in it, I think.
Which is what you want, really. isn't
Yeah, that's it. Something different.
it? That's so good. I think this is really exciting. I have to say that this is much more and much better than anything I expected.
Yeah, same. It's much better than what I thought it would look like. Come and try some chutney. You got the idea.
But as the public begin to arrive, there are lots of tasters,
Yummy.
but not many buyers.
Can we tempt you to buy a pot, sir?
I don't know, maybe later. See how we go.
It's a bit slow from what I'm used to, but then it's still early, and if they taste here first and it stands out in their mind, they'll go off and then they'll come back and buy.
By midday, the crowds are pouring in. I believe that food festivals like this are really important, not least in giving the non-farming public a chance to taste and enjoy the best of British produce and to see for themselves the value of good farming and good food production.
He has the most fabulous sausages. They're going well.
They are going very well, thank you.
See, the thing is, we go out of our way to travel to get them. And people, if you find a supplier, people will come to you, won't they?
They will.
Yeah.
And they do, yes.
Well, my children were brought up on your system.
Splendid.
Let's have a taste. This is kefili. That is so nice, lovely.
£4 for £10. Come and try.
Back at T's stall, business is picking up.
It's £3 then, please. Thank you. Thanks. Just get your change.
After a busy morning, I sit down for a moment with T to see how she's coping.
You're pregnant and getting morning sickness.
Yeah,
You're backing and supporting Nick,
yeah,
and that's quite a handful.
yeah,
And you've done all this.
yes.
That's heroic, T. It's amazing.
Thank you.
I mean, obviously the next step is to say, right, we've got the end product,
Yeah,
but all this started on the land.
yes, yeah.
Would you like to, or do you still want to work backwards and then plant some of your own fruit
I
tree?
do. But you know, we've been growing passion fruit vines in the greenhouse.
You're thinking with your Zimbabwean head on.
I am.
You've got to think South Wales.
Realistically.
The only way it will work is if you grow gooseberries and currants and
Yeah.
apples and plums and
Yeah.
and blackcurrants.
I think what I might have to do is grow traditional trees in Wales and grow tropical fruits in Africa.
I think
that's
please
what I'll have
invite
to
me
do.
to come and see it.
Oh,
I'd
you'll
love
be more
to.
than welcome.
See you later.
Yes.
Whilst T goes back to the stall where she's making such a success of her project, Nick and I go back to their farm. So far, Nick has acted on 2 out of 3 of my suggestions. He's got bales of his hay stored in the barn, and the pigs are, at last, on the land. Although not, I see, in the scrubby bit where they could be most effective.
So they've been quite busy in a day.
Yeah.
And do you want the land dug up?
Not this particular. Certain areas, yes, we want it cleared.
I mean, the point you're obviously aware of is if you leave, they've been here one day and they've
Yeah.
done this.
Yeah.
If you don't want them to reduce it to a quagmire,
Yeah.
then they need more space.
Yes.
So where are you going to move them to where you do want
I think
that?
ideally now to here,
Right.
and then open up the fences, let them in to
I mean-
more overgrown areas.
It's clear to me that Nick has put the pigs on this spot without seeing them as part of any bigger picture. And it looks as though he's changed his mind about the cattle too.
What about the cattle? I suggested you get some cattle.
The cows was just too much too soon. It's another thing, and
I'm getting the feeling that you're feeling a bit pulled in different directions. What really interests you about this place?
Not really.
I don't know. Right.
It's obvious that Nick is having a bad time at the moment and finding it all very tough. He's neither mental room nor energy to commit to the farm. And making him feel bad about this would only make matters worse. I think he just needs to consolidate what he's managed to achieve and try to be positive about the future.
All I can say, I want you to come back in 12 months and then 18 months and go, yeah, you've done it, wow. Because we will get there, but we just got to take it slow.
Let's start with the good things. I think what T has achieved today is a complete triumph. As for Nick, the cattle haven't happened, the pigs are fine, but I don't think he's terribly interested. And I started to feel irritated with him. But the truth is that's really unfair, because Nick is bipolar. And I don't think it's fair to load my expectations onto him. The next time I see him, I need to talk to him about his health and then set this land and his dreams and what he can achieve into that context.
Nick and Talitha Bailey-Brain are trying to realise their farming dream in South Wales. But the last time I saw Nick, who has bipolar disorder, he seemed thoroughly overwhelmed by the whole venture. It's now November, and I'm not sure what I will find when I return to Cumbrook Farm, or what frame of mind that Nick will be in. The key thing I want to talk to him about before I go is how I might be able to help him, and he can help himself, acknowledging his illness, acknowledging the demands of farming, and making the two work to help each other, rather than it just being another problem. As I turn into the track, I see the first surprise. Nick's previously empty field is full of sheep.
Nick, hi. Nice to see you.
All right.
Very nice to see you. How are things going?
Oh, good.
I love the fact you've got some sheep in the field.
They're not mine. I've tacked the land out.
Which means that you're basically renting the land to someone else, so they're putting their animals to eat your grass.
Yes, yeah.
How much are you getting for that?
£120 a month.
Well, that's good. So they are grazing the land. The land's being used. You don't want the burden of day-to-day management of the sheep, but you enjoy having them around, and you like looking at them, and it's great for Emily, and it's just good for the household.
Yeah, so it's a win-win situation, really.
Well, that's good. That's fantastic.
Perhaps the sheep indicate that Nick is in a more positive frame of mind now. He's also finally taken my advice about the pigs, giving them much more space, and now they're doing a really good job of clearing this overgrown corner. The next surprise is the best one of all. After 5 months of procrastination, Nick is taking delivery of 3 cows and a steer from Polly's Dexter's.
They've got a nice coat. How do you feel about that?
Oh, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
See, to me, it becomes alive now.
Yeah.
You know, that's what this land has wanted for months.
Oh, they're off.
They're
off.
You see, they're off to have a look. They'll just check out the whole joint. It's taken a little while, and now it's happened. Do you think it's a good thing?
Oh, brilliant. I've still got a lot to learn, you know. I think I'm going to be ringing Polly
But I'm
up.
sure people will help you. I mean, all of us have to learn.
Yeah.
I'll always be on hand.
That's brilliant.
Now, where?
At last, Nick is finally starting to achieve his dream of having animals on this land. But I also want T to feel that she has a stake in the land. She's got a real desire to grow and harvest her own fruit, so I muster Nick to help me plant a pear tree, which I hope will be the inspiration for many more in years to come.
You've come. Hello, nice to see you. How
nice
are you?
to see you. I'm all right, thank you.
We've been planting you a tree.
Oh.
This is a token. And in 5, 10, 20 years' time, it'll be a fantastic orchard, and your grandchildren will be sitting underneath the shade of the trees.
It's taken an awful lot of time and effort to get to this stage, but Nick and T are beginning to make real progress at last. I take the family out to lunch so we can get away from the farm and discuss how they're coping, especially in the light of Nick's health, with all the changes the last few months have brought. That Abergavenny day was a fantastic success. I was so impressed. How do you feel about it now?
We've met people, even our next door neighbours have bought chutney from the Abergavenny Food Festival.
And nurses from work have bought chutney.
So it did reach a huge market. You can.
But although the chutneys did so well, Tia's decided to put that side of the business on hold for a while, at least until she's had her baby. But hopefully the experience will encourage her to pick it up again when she's ready.
But you now have, on the land, Dexter cattle, large black pigs. You have somebody else's sheep. That's quite a lot going on.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
It's where we wanted to go. I enjoy now every day, instead of it being a bind, I actually look forward to going up to see the pigs.
It's great that Nick is feeling more confident about looking after the animals, but given the constant demands of farming, it's also important that he acknowledges the constraints of his bipolar disorder.
It's a very significant factor, isn't it?
The nasty thing with bipolar is because it goes up and down, up and down, up and down. I've been manic, as in high as a kite, many, many times. And although for me that feels great because I think I'm on top of the world and I'm buzzing, for everyone around you, you're like a wrecking ball. If that's anything I've learned in the last 6 months, I don't think you should set yourself concrete goals in the smaller things, because I think if you don't achieve them, you then beat yourself up. You know, you've got to get up out of bed every day and feel good. That's going to get you where you want to be so much quicker then if you get up and start worrying about your cows, your pigs, your sheep, your land, just go with the flow with that. It'll sort itself out. Do you know what I mean? You just got to get up and be happy.
This has already been a big journey for Nick and T, and they've only just started. But if I've helped them with their first small steps towards achieving their farming dreams, then that's wonderful. But I realise that it is Nick's ongoing battle with his bipolar illness, rather than farming, that will shape his own future and that of his whole family.
Farming is inherently stressful. It's a series of problems that assault you every day. And there are endless responsibilities. And for anybody, that's difficult, demanding, and tests your mental and physical health. For Nick, what he's doing is enough to cope, enough to live as healthily as he can, in order that he and his family can get by. And really, who could ever want more than that for him?